This is Plant-Based Briefing. Processed is a useless, empty descriptor of food by Karthik Sekar at aftermeatbook.com. And I'm your host, Marian Erickson, and this is the curated content plant-based podcast where I narrate a variety of articles on plant-based and vegan living because there are so many facets to living a vegan lifestyle. There are so many reasons to do it and so many benefits. Today's episode is from Karthik Sekar, Ph.D. You may have heard him in episode 171, where he wrote an article for Faunalytics called Technical Outrage, Innovation to Reduce Animal Use, where he outlines the technical and ethical promises of microbial fermentation, companies like Corn, Q-U-O-R-N, creating plant-based meats out of fungi, mushrooms, essentially. And episode 321, he wrote an article, Shifting to a Better World, where he argues that practicing unabashed, hardline veganism is the most impactful good we can do, looking through the lens of the tipping point phenomenon and the fact that veganism will be normalized and the food options will be better than anything possible via conventional animal agriculture. So inconveniencing ourselves now helps us actually get there faster. He's also author of the book, After Meat, The Case for an Amazing Meat-Free World. It explores technological reasons for moving away from animal products. Since they're outdated, so wasteful, lousy technology, we can do much better with alternative technology such as microbial fermentation. And the future of food will be tastier, healthier, cheaper, kinder, better for the environment. It's a very inspirational book, and 100% of all proceeds from his book are donated to animal-related charities. And Brigitte Jem from Vegan Family Kitchen did a great interview with Karthik on her podcast. You can also find it on her website, veganfamilykitchen.com. Go to the blog page, and I'll also put a link to that in the show notes. Karthik is a trained scientist and engineer. He finished his BS in biomedical engineering from the University of North Carolina, his Ph.D. in chemical engineering from Northwestern University, and a postdoctoral position in systems biology at ETH Zurich. He currently works on the front lines of the alternative food industry in the San Francisco Bay Area, and you can visit aftermeatbook.com to learn more. So now let's get to today's plant-based briefing. Processed is a useless, empty descriptor of food by Karthik Sekar at aftermeatbook.com. I've seen a few confused, underdeveloped takes in various media about quote-unquote processed foods. Often these inchoate arguments are used as a cudgel against the burgeoning alternative food movement, which seeks to replace conventional meat, dairy, and other animal products. Here's an example from LinkedIn posted a few weeks ago. Side note, Greggs is a UK bakery chain. Quote, "We need to be careful. I am an advocate of reducing our global meat consumption. I am a supporter of eating regenerative, high-quality meats for both planetary and human health. I am also a big fan of the plant-based food movement, helping people to do the above, as well as the alt-protein movement to help future generations do this too. However, I'm not an advocate of damaging human health to do so. If we undernourish a generation, it will have an even more drastic impact on our planet too. Whilst I'm glad Greggs has been so transparent about the ingredients in its vegan sausage bap, it's clear that it's very, very heavily processed. To change food habits, we need good-tasting, healthier options that regenerate our planet. Exciting foods that taste good, feel good, and do good. What the world doesn't need is a very overly processed vegan sausage bap. Processing can be a necessary thing in many cases, and corn, Q-U-O-R-N, itself isn't an inherently bad product, but adding additional ingredients to a sandwich that don't need to be there can make a well-intentioned product harmful. Big support for everyone currently trying to improve both human and planetary health right now." Unquote. This molded for virality LinkedIn post has all the hallmarks, a litany of short, easy-to-read sentences, generously spaced out to reel in someone from mindless doom scrolling. Some sentences will capture your regard and perhaps your like, and only a few of them are controversial enough to deter a scrupulous observer. But taken as a whole, the post insidiously capitalizes on some implicit and bald assumptions about food, while meekly declining to stick its neck out and spell out the author's reasoning. The author seems to argue that certain foods, in this case a vegan corn sausage, are, quote-unquote, very, very heavily processed, And that's in contrast to, quote, healthier options that regenerate our planet, unquote. The post implies that processing comes at the expense of how healthy and sustainable food is. It's not only an unscientific, baseless meme, but a counterproductive one to indulge and spread. If we, humanity, truly want tasty, affordable, healthy, kinder, and more sustainable food, then we need better descriptors. The first issue is that processed is meaningless and fluid as an adjective, and the above post clarifies none of the confusion. What is processed? Is that the number of chemical or mechanical transformations on food? If that's so, then every animal product is highly processed. A cow, a bioreactor for food production, chemically transforms the grass and grains consumed by breaking down the starches into constituent sugars. The cow's metabolism chemically converts those sugars into thousands, if not millions, of molecules such as amino and fatty acids. The amino acids build into proteins, forming the eventual meat or milk. Dairy products are further mechanical and chemical transformations of cow milk. The resultant label obscures all these steps because the ingredient list can just say milk, cultures, due to outdated labeling laws. But really, the ingredients are lactose, lactic acid, butyric acid, caproic acid, caprylic acid, potassium, A-casein, B-casein, K-casein, lactoalbumin, heptanoic acid, sodium, potassium, magnesium, chloride, and thousands more. If we contend that the amount of processing is equivalent to chemical or mechanical transformations, then fruits and vegetables are highly processed too. Plants convert carbon dioxide, water, and minerals into a concatenation of molecules: fiber, ascorbic acid, protein, oils, sugar, vitamins, etc. A tomato's label of all the contained compounds would be extensive, like it would be for meat or dairy. When discussing how healthy a food is, the only thing we need to evaluate is the food itself, not simply how we created it. What ultimately matters are latent chemical ingredients and how our bodies metabolize them. Our saliva, stomach, and intestine work together to break down food into its chemical constituents, the individual amino acids, fat molecules, sugars, and minerals. Once we digest our food into separate chemicals, our body can turn them into tissue, blood cells, and energy. Listing out lactose, lactic acid, and so forth was not just for the writing effect. It's what our bodies nutritionally interrogate into our food. I also want to tackle any tenuous connection between how processed food is and purported planetary devastation. I've written extensively about how animal agriculture is arguably the most environmentally destructive industry on the planet, more than the transportation and energy sectors, in my view. The destructiveness stems from the stark inefficiency and scale of using animals as bioreactors. It's not just about emissions, it's also about animal agriculture capturing a third of the ice-free land on Earth. Renewable animal agriculture doesn't solve the underlying inefficiency of animal bioreactors. In fact, it uses more land than factory farming. Instead, plant and microbial-based foods are our best solutions. A bathtub-sized microbial bioreactor could replace a cattle operation with 10,000 heads, a massive land, emission, and resource saving. Indeed, a recent publication linked here calculated that replacing a mere 20% of beef production with microbial-based corn could slice deforestation in half. Renewable animal agriculture is a complicated distraction, a shiny Rube Goldberg machine. There are better, more effective ways to solve the underlying problem. If one still believes processed can be a helpful adjective, I suggest the following exercise. Come up with a precise definition for what processed means. Does the definition somehow only encompass unhealthy or harmful foods for the environment? Is the description going to say that raw honey and kale smoothies are unprocessed or processed? Feel free to comment or message me to pressure test the definition. Instead, we already have more precise, helpful metrics and ways to evaluate food. Digestibility, protein content, fiber distribution and content, vitamin content, and quantity of free sugar all come to mind. In summary, processed is a useless, empty descriptor concerning food. It's fallacious to draw any conclusion about corn sausage and Impossible burgers based on the length of their ingredient list or how processed they are. With better metrics, many alternatives have proven to be much healthier and more sustainable than conventional animal-based counterparts. A recent paper linked here evaluated the case of sausages, with the vegan and vegetarian alternatives winning decisively, both more nutritious and a lower environmental impact. I've long argued that we can have food that's healthier, tastier, and more affordable while winning on ethics and the environment. Such food can only happen if we give up animals as bioreactors and have valuable food descriptors. As someone who works in the alternative food space, I can proudly say that we're highly motivated to put forth nutritionally impressive products. To assess the salubrity of our prototypes, we employ a slew of descriptors. Processed is not one of them. You just listened to Processed is a Useless Empty Descriptor of Food by Karthik Sekar at aftermeatbook.com. And I'm your host, Marian Erickson, and I love this post because so many people who are animal eaters say, "Ooh, I don't want to try that processed stuff," talking about plant-based meats when studies have proven over and over again they're healthier than the animal meats that they think are quote-unquote natural. Check out episodes 59, 114, and 183 for information on that. And I like Dr. Greger's definition of processed food being nothing bad added and nothing good taken away. So with this microbial fermentation and these plant-based meats and the future that Karthik has outlined in his book After Meat, it will be good things added and bad things taken away. So please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.